Good morning. It's Friday, December 8th, 2023. My name is Terry Morgan. We are here to practice Wudang Qigong. Today begins the first in a new series on Wudang Qigong. I'm going to start at the very beginning and go through each set in accord with what Professor Liu has taught. And I decided this morning that I'm also going to include part of, well, I'm not part of, all of, because that's what I'm doing, what I have from that exercise. Okay, so as we work through each of the sets, there will be the part of class where I follow the book as closely as possible. That's going to not be today. It's not going to be today. And there will be the part of class where I give the exercise and talk a little bit about what's in the exercise, what I've learned from that exercise, and what the fundamentals for that exercise are. That is today's class. Alright, so as we go through, this is a preview, and I'm going to talk about this idea of future state in just a second. As we go through, there will be multiple classes for each set. I'm also going to collect all of what I've previously recorded and get that properly tagged so that the instruction is there and available and complete. That's my goal over the next several months, is to make what is available a complete archive. Each class that I teach has certain elements to it. There's emphasis, there's focus, there's this is what we're doing today. As I have done that, each class also has something just a little bit unique about it. That's the point of live classes and teaching on a daily basis, is that element of continuity, that element of this is what we're doing today, this is what I haven't decided what I'm going to do tomorrow, but I have thought about it, and that is part of the lesson for today. The exercise that begins Wudang Qigong is begin at extreme emptiness, or extreme emptiness exercise. Wuji Gong. It's easier to say in Chinese. It really is. Put this down. That is part of the class. That idea that it's easier to say in Chinese. Wuji Gong. Gong is the exercise. Gong fu. Gong. Practice. Do something. That first part, wuji, empty. Wuji kai wang qi kai tai qi. From wuqi, this extreme emptiness, comes wang qi, the potential for everything. Comes tai qi, yin and yang. From yin and yang comes everything else. 道生一，一生二，二生三，三生万物生。From the Tao comes one, from one comes two, from two comes three, from three comes 10,000 things. This idea, wuji, wuji kai, wang qi, kai tai qi, When you have 2, you also have 3, because the combination of 2 makes 3. Each one is separate, yet together they form something else, which is a third thing. Wuji kai, wang qi kai, tai qi kai. This, from the Tao comes 1, from Tao comes 2, from 1 comes 2, from 2 comes 3, from 3 comes 10,000 things, is something that is a foundation for Taoist philosophy. It is also something that is fundamental for what we want to consider when we are practicing and when we are learning. This idea that begin at extreme emptiness, there's nothing. I take blank slate. I don't know anything. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not happy about anything. There's just nothing. It's empty. That emptiness is something that we cultivate, particularly in this first exercise. Qigong. Qigong. That's the name of the exercise, right? So I realize that that should be obvious, but I need to make it clear that yes, it is. And that connection is something that is not necessarily obvious. It's not necessarily something that particularly a person who does not speak Chinese as their native language is ever going to know about. Many people who speak Chinese as their native language have no clue what I'm talking about. They don't. It's not, they didn't study it. They don't know. It's not that they're... and I want to be clear about this idea because it's something that is part of today's class. I don't know. They don't know. You don't know. Is fine. I don't know a whole bunch of stuff. I really don't. There's tons of things that I don't know. So the idea that I don't know, you don't know, they don't know, I can go down the list in English grammar. That idea is normal. It's normal. Nobody knows everything. So the person who comes along and says, well, no, you don't know everything. That concept, I don't know. How do I learn? I don't know. Wuji, 这是什么物体？物体是你干什么的wuji？什么是开太极？这是什么干？这样太麻烦了，我不喜欢学习。What is this wuji? What is this extreme emptiness thing? What's it mean to create or give birth to or shengna? Gives birth to, creates. Tai Chi. What does that mean? That means nothing. I don't want to study this kind of thing. It's just some kind of, well, you could say that, and you might decide that you don't want to study this. It's okay. It's part of what I study. And the foundation that comes from this concept of begin at extreme emptiness, that everything, relax the back, relax the hips, bend the knees just a little bit, place the weight nicely over the legs, suspend the body, Pull up through the crown of the head, pull up through the spine. Shoulders are down, the arms are relaxed. Drop the elbows, relax the hands. Everything is empty. There's nothing that I'm doing right now that is not absolutely essential for me to remain here standing upright. And there's very little that has to be done, really. I have to be balanced over my feet and not move. Pretty much it. Empty. Not empty. Yeah, I don't know how clearly you can see the difference in the video. That idea, empty. Nothing there, nothing moving. Quiet. Still. Only the breath. Everything well placed, nicely centered. Empty. Now, not empty. I'm still standing here. My knees are still bent. But if you notice, I'm standing a little straighter and there's a bit more tension in my body. Not empty. Relax for a minute. That idea, that empty, feet about shoulder width apart. This is where we start. That sense of letting go of everything. There's nothing that we need. There's nothing that we need to do. It's all gone. It's just, there's nothing there. And it's comfortable. It's not empty with the sense of wanting something. It's empty with the sense of being comfortable that I don't have this and I don't have that, and it's all okay. That concept allows us to relax the mind, empty the mind. In the Lao Tzu, it says, empty the mind and fill the belly. Literally, don't worry about things, have something to eat. That idea, don't worry about things, and as we practice, we almost, and for a certain part, quite literally have something to eat. We develop some skills, we develop our abilities to work within the framework that we have, both the exercise framework as well as our own, and we begin learning, this is first class, right? We begin learning what some of these things mean. So, this idea, the extreme emptiness, is where we start. It's empty. How do we develop that understanding? How do we develop that skill? And I was talking about that for a minute. I talked about this previously. I have a story that I'm working on. I would like to develop a picture of several of the characters. And I have an idea in my mind. I have the idea. I know what I want that picture to look like, mostly. And I found a person who was generous and offered to draw for me the picture, because I can't draw. I can see it, but I can't draw it. She asked some of the most wonderful questions that I couldn't answer. Oops. What about this? Oh, I hadn't thought about that. As I thought about it, I was able to answer her question. I was like, all right, I had not anticipated that question. I didn't realize somebody was asking that question, going to ask that question. Right? Once she asked, I was like, wait, what? And then I realized that that information that she needed was part of my idea. But there was no way for me to share it with her because it was still in my head, right? So I had to do something to make that idea visible, to give her so she could see it. I still have a little bit more to do. That process is what I'm talking about for future and for what we're doing in this class. So I know, I've studied Qigong, I understand the concept, wuji, tai chi, I understand those concepts. I studied that for several years. I really did. That idea is something that I'm comfortable with and familiar with. But she's not. I wrote the story. I wrote the characters. I wrote the scene. I know exactly what I think it should look like. Yeah, but she doesn't. How do I bridge that so that I can bring her into this world so she can see the concept, she can see the idea, she can understand what's in my head, so that she's able to use her skills to do something more. That idea is what we want in all of our classes, in all of our practice. That I may not fully understand this right now. As I practice, as I develop the idea, as I develop the skills, as I get better at it, I will gradually begin to understand and be able to ask the questions. Right? I gave her an idea. She took it. Oh, what about this? What about that? What about this? What should this look like? She didn't have any idea. I didn't give it to her. That is where she started. And that is where so many people, particularly at the beginning level, just at the very beginning level, I want to do something, I don't know what I want to do, I'm trying to learn, I'm looking around. At that very beginning level, that's the kind of question that so many people have about Qigong generally. A lot of questions about the internal martial arts. Not so many about Tai Chi anymore. There's quite a bit of Tai Chi out there, but this idea, what's Qi? Different pronunciation. What's Qi? What's this Qi Kong stuff? Right? It's not correct pronunciation, but it looks like that in English. What is it? I don't understand. That's the same as this very generous lady who's offered to help draw a picture that I can't draw. Doesn't understand. Help me understand what this thing is. That beginning, that openness, help me understand, is where we start. That's where I started. I wanted to learn. Help me understand what this is. I don't know. I want to. I'm not going to try and impose too much. I did, but I'm not going to try and impose too much on this particular art because I want to learn this art. I don't want to learn another art. So there's a comparison in what we do in Qigong and Tai Chi to yoga. It's not the same. The concepts are slightly different. The internal work is different. But there are many elements that are very much the same. It's a reasonable comparison for someone who has not studied. They're at the over here at the doorway. They're just beginning. What am I seeing here? What is this? All right. So as we start this idea of empty, letting go of the preconceptions, letting go of whatever I think this is. I don't know. Accept that I don't know. It's okay to not know. This is what I was talking about before with this idea. It's okay to not know. Accept that idea. I don't know. As you do that, the mind begins to relax. You're not tense anymore. You're not thinking, I need to know what this is. I need to, that inner voice becomes quiet, which is what we want. As that becomes quiet, it's like, all right, I don't know. I'm going to find out. Right? What's on the menu? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. Right? It's okay to not know. As we begin, we develop that knowledge so that as we progress, we're able to apply it repeatedly. As we begin at extreme emptiness, feet about shoulder width apart, knees bent just a little bit, we're not here yet. We will, but we're not here yet. Just a little tiny bit, so it's not straight and locked. It's just a little bit. Shoulders are down and relaxed. Pull up through the crown of the head so that you pull up through the entire spine. Pull up through the huiyin. Pull up into and under the waist so that you're under the ribs, right here. Bring the waist in and open it. So pull up. Shoulders are down. The arms are open and relaxed. Wiggle the fingers. Wiggle the toes. Stand straight. Just stand there. Breathe. Just stand there. Breathe in, relax. And breathe out, relax more. Smile. Open the back. Relax the hips. Relax through the knees. Keep the body straight. Find any tension that might be in the body, anywhere. So look inside and let it go. Body's naturally suspended. Everything's in good alignment. Minimal effort to stand here. Empty. Relax the breath, pull up through the spine, breathe in. Breathe out. Ladies, right hand on the outside. Gentlemen, left hand on the outside. Breathe in. Hands turn over. Press down. The inside thumb can press slightly against the body as the hands press down. Shoulders down and relaxed, open. Sink. Breathe in. And breathe out. Breathe in. As you breathe in, open through the back, pull up through the center, relax through the hips, open the leg, press down through the foot, keep the hip just behind the heel. Stay suspended through the back. Connect the breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. 2 more. Breathe in. Pay attention to the back. Pay attention to the back of the leg as you breathe in. Pay attention to the front as you breathe out. And last time, breathe in. Hands separate. Down along both sides. Pull up through the crown of the head. Raise the heels and lower. Stay there. Breathe in. Breathe out. And breathe in. And breathe out. Relax. As you're breathing, as you're moving, this idea of whole body effort, that we start with empty. As the breath comes in, we fill. So this idea of full and empty, empty, full, is part of what we are doing in this one set. There's more. And I'm going to go more into that next class. Next week, I'm going to do this again. But I'm going to, let me put that another way. Next week, I will pay attention to beginner and extreme emptiness again. Much more in accord with, and this is what I was saying at the beginning of class, and the class that I taught today is my foundation. As I teach the next class on this particular set, I'm going to focus on what Professor Leo has in his book. Now, with that in mind, many of the concepts that he has in his book are unfamiliar to people who are not either Chinese or interested in traditional Chinese medicine or interested in Qigong. If you aren't one of those groups. These are concepts that are very unfamiliar. They were completely unfamiliar to me when I started. Now, if you're familiar with traditional Chinese medicine, the acupuncture points and the channels and meridians, not a problem. If you're not, I wasn't. What do I do with that? Right? That is considered, I'm going to say it another way. When I first started, when I was looking around at what schools to go to and what might I do, and I'm going to look at practice, I'm going to do something. I want to do something. What am I going to do? This concept, that this internal workmanship, this Qigong thing, all of the connections internally, the traditional Chinese medicine, that was considered advanced. It wasn't beginner level class. Okay? And you might not even see it at some schools until a couple years later. Get some basics first, then you learn some of this. That is true no matter where that school is. It doesn't matter where the school is. Literally, it does not matter. It depends on the teacher. It depends on how they've structured the classes. When I started learning from Professor Liu, some of these things that I had considered, because of my experience, were advanced. Basics. It's fundamental. You're supposed to already know all of this, and then we can start. Oh. That's why I've started at the very beginning, again, with my own foundation for this exercise. So it comes from the philosophy, it comes from dance, it comes from my own development of my practice, my standing practice, being able to actively quiet the mind, quiet the body, and develop the skill that comes from being able to do that. That very first thing is the foundation for everything else. I will be back next week. Wednesday, not Monday and Tuesday, Wednesday, Xingyi, Thursday, Tai Chi, Friday, Qigong, and I'm going to cover this set again with a little bit more advanced work and a little bit more discussion about the acupuncture points and how we circulate the energy through the 3 heavenly circles. Thank you for being here today. I appreciate it.